So if you've gotten this far so far and you haven't hit subscribe, what are you doing? Hit subscribe. And show this to a friend, right? If you've gotten this far and you're enjoying yourself, that's the best way you can help us out. You hit the thumbs up, you leave a comment, and you share it. So this third section is traditionally, what the bleep have you done for the label? Mm-hmm. But what have you done for the label this week? You showed up for the podcast.
I showed up for the podcast, and also, if you run into me somewhere, I have download cards in my purse.
Do you have stickers?
I don't have stickers. You didn't give me stickers.
Take a handful of stickers. Anybody that buys a download card.
See, stickers.
Anybody that buys a download card gets a sticker.
Or you can buy the stickers for $1 each.
The stickers are $1 each. Otherwise, yep.
So.
They're nice. They're latex or vinyl. No, they're vinyl. They're
vinyl. Latex is something else, dear.
I have something on the mind. I specifically went with a union print shop. Yes. So these are people that these are printed by unionized workers, and the owner is totally cool with them being unionized. Mm-hmm. In fact, he knows that somebody like me will go, "Oh, union. Mm-hmm. I'm down." Yeah. So I actually had them leave their logo on the front of the of the sticker. Get yourself a sticker. It helps us. It helps the show. It helps the label. It helps our artists.
Yes.
So get a sticker.
So yes, I will have stickers and download cards for $5 each.
Yep.
So if you run into me somewhere or you know me, and you're watching this, yes. And
if you want either, right? Mm-hmm. You can use paypal.me/theJazzDestroyers.
Okay.
PayPal.me/theJazzDestroyers, and then when you send $5 and you'll get a download card, you'll get a sticker, and I'll pay for the shipping because it's like a stamp's what, 50 cents?
Somewhere in that neighborhood now.
Yeah, there's some minor cost to the envelope and the stamp, but if you want to throw an extra $1 at me for that would be nice. But not required. The additional shipping and handling will only go to making sure that everybody in the band gets paid, because we split everything evenly after my 50 cents on these cards are recouped.
Yeah, so I should probably make sure you have access to stamps and envelopes for that, shouldn't I?
They're around. They're in the house. I got to send a bunch out anyway. We're sending a bunch out. I figured you'd want
slightly smaller envelopes. The ones I have are rather large, so yeah. I can get you some.
So on that's kind of what's going on with us with the label right now. So we're gonna move over to this interview I did with David Komie. This is really special. This is our second interview. The first was Steve Albini. Next week we'll talk to Eric Seraphin, Mixer Man. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and cut to that. Get off my lawn! It's David Komie.
Correct.
And you're the attorney that rocks. I've been so excited about having. I've been telling everybody, David Comey's going to come, because I drive by your billboard every single day.
Oh, yeah, we're heavy out in Manor and Elgin because the prices are good.
That's right.
And also, it's my demographic, kind of,
Kind of.
There's not too many rich people out here.
No. That's, Shadow Glen maybe, but that's kind of mid-rangey in the grand spectrum of things.
I get the occasional rich person, but usually it's salt of the earth. Salt
of the earth, man. You're out there fighting the good fight.
Yeah, helping the little guy.
So you're an attorney. You do personal injury law?
I do.
And I saw on the website you do real estate law as well.
No, that's old. That's old. I've got my real estate broker's license, but I haven't done real estate law in a long time.
Real estate law is supremely boring.
Yeah.
Personal injury. You're out there fighting for the little guy. That's great.
Yeah.
How many cases do you handle a year?
I can't say per year, but I can tell you that I don't know, but I can tell you that right now we've got about 650 clients, open files.
Open cases.
Yeah.
So that means if it would take you a year if you were to finish up each one of those at twice a day. That's crazy.
Yeah. Some of them will be open a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Some are done quicker. The idea is to have that number grow, close out 2, but open 3.
Open 3, yeah. And just keep it growing.
Exactly.
Now, how long have you been doing that? You have been a fixture as long as I've been in Austin. I've been in Austin at least 10 years.
Well, I was already practicing law for 7 years before I moved here.
Okay. Where was that from?
Atlanta. I started there, and that's where I met my wife.
I saw that you did insurance law.
I did. I had a great mentor, and it was a great way to learn the business because I was on the side of the insurance company. And I learned all their tricks, and they've got a lot of them. And I learned the culture, which is very important. I learned what buttons to push. That it's their fear button.
Right.
And I learned how to make them squirm, and that's how you can kind of...
You can get this because you don't really want to take these things to court, right?
We will. We're happy to, but I mean, it's probably
expensive.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the clients bore the expenses of it, but even though I do a lot of advertising, most of our work comes from referrals, and that's because I appreciate the fact that they want to feel better, get as much money as they can, and have it happen as fast as they can.
Sure.
So we're aware of the speed factor.
That makes sense. And it's mostly car accidents, I assume?
It's a lot of that. We have a lot of work injuries. We have some products cases, or defective products.
I should actually, before you jet, I should introduce you to my neighbor. ¿Se habla español? No?
No.
Okay.
My firm does, but not me.
So my neighbor was telling me one day, he's a roofer, and he was working on one of the crews that's working over on Breckenridge. And he told me that in the last year, I think 2 of his coworkers had died on the job site. And it's a lot of undocumented workers working there, and they weren't giving them their requisite breaks. And I had to explain to him, and he doesn't speak a ton of English, I don't speak a ton of Spanish, but I had to explain to him, like, Austin ordinance says you get a water break every hour.
I'm not aware of that.
Oh, because you don't do employment law.
Well, I do. I handle people who get injured on the job. If there's workers' comp, that's typically the exclusive remedy. That's all you can do, and it's a really crap system here. It's like very pro business.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and however, there's a couple of exceptions that are, if you die, you can get out of the system if there's gross negligence, and then. A lot of times people don't have workers' comp, and then they're called non-subscribers because they're not subscribing to workers' comp. And then there's a really low threshold for recovery there, and that's the kind of cases that we handle. We handle people, a lot of people that have fallen off ladders or they're on this rickety scaffolding and it collapses. And
and my heart. Anybody who watches the show a lot, I'm kind of a bleeding heart liberal, but. My whole thing is like, why can't we just make these work sites safe? Like, construction is one of the most dangerous jobs you can do.
It's whoever owns the business is trying to make as much money as they can and keeping expenses as low as they can.
Yeah.
And I've got some construction going on at my house right now, and these guys have makeshift scaffolding. But they dance across it like they're like tightrope walkers. They're skilled.
Right.
But that still doesn't mean that it's up to code or it's safe or whatever,
Right, and you're sitting there going, no, get off of there.
They're playing around on there too. I see them. They have like 2 like metal posts with like a long piece of wood, and they're 15 feet up, but they're like dancing. One guy's bouncing, so the other guy has to like... and they're laughing.
You're sitting there like, come here, sign this waiver. Please sign this waiver.
I'm heavily insured, and they're not my employees. I didn't hire them, but it's interesting. So
it's funny how that works. And what is? Do you have a favorite case? Has there been one over the years that you've just absolutely loved?
I like the ones that pay great.
Yeah, that's
we try to help everybody. I look at everything equally.
Yeah.
I have some least favorite ones. I have ones like where people's kids have died and things like that.
Oh.
Those are rough.
Yeah.
My favorite cases are where the person actually gets, even though they were hurt badly, gets well.
Yeah.
And then they get paid handsomely for going through the problem, and that you take a bad situation and turn it around into the best positive you could make it.
That's
I would
true.
say if you're getting dealt a bad hand, at least let's play it to win.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And Yeah, but I've handled so many cases. I don't really have a favorite or a least favorite. Or
Yeah, you don't have
like
one that stands out in your mind of like.
I'm getting kind of old now. It's like I've been at it since 1989. So
You're doing pretty well because you're about Tom's age, and Tom was on last week's episode. But you and I look like we went to high school together, so you're doing pretty good.
Well, the grays and the whites are coming in.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about, though, right? Because I'm not keeping an eye on time super well, but so we'll bounce back and forth. But you have a band, the Dharma Kings.
Right.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Dharma Kings, yeah.
And I'll put a card. I got a point here. I'll put a card right there for that because that stuff was great. You sent me that because I went Googling, and somehow the search results, the fully produced videos are not the first thing that pops up.
I don't know how that works,
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I can actually see your I have a Chrome extension called vidIQ. I can see your tags. I can make some recommendations.
Right. So, but we have a Facebook page and a website.
You got a huge Facebook page. You got a bunch of, or one of those. You had a bunch of likes, or.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more
it's just
curiosity than actual likes a lot of times. But,
it's true. They see the billboard. They look you up. They go, "All right, what's this band sound like?" And then you see. And I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, people usually have your reaction like, I liked it. Like, I'm surprised. I mean, people have pretty low expectations for me in that realm. So it's fun to try to exceed it.
You're not the first lawyer that's a musician, right? There's actually a trope.
I'm sure.
The old trope is that they all go into blues. So we got this in the community. We call them blues lawyers.
Oh, okay.
So they're the guys who go out and they do like corporate law and they make an unholy sum of money, and then they show up with the $10,000 amp and the $50,000 guitar and a pedal board full of stuff, and it's like they've been playing it. They're very much hobbyists, but they have all the toys that we all drool over. So it's a pejorative only because we're all jealous.
Yeah. So we have very few rules, but one of the rules that I like to stick to is stay out of the blues scale.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's done that so many times in so many different ways, and
Yeah, who's your guitarist?
His name is Richard Jesse. He's pretty fantastic.
He is pretty fantastic.
He teaches a lot of touring, like full-time touring musicians. I don't need to drop any names, but they come into town and they take lessons from him. He's been making a living playing guitar for his whole life.
That's wild. What other projects does he play in?
Well, he's got his own thing, the Richard Jesse Project. He picks up gigs. People will pay him really good money just to come and sit in and play a gig with them. He does studio work. He teaches lessons.
I have no idea what that's like.
So, I met him one time. I bought a cabinet from him, a Koch cabinet that they retail for like $1,500, and he's had it for $300. So, anyway,
he's like, just get it out of my house.
I met him just through Craigslist, and we immediately hit it off. I was hanging out with him after buying something from Craigslist. Then I took guitar lessons from him.
Very cool.
And then I've been through several members of this band. There's been several incarnations I
have no idea what that's like either.
As we've kind of progressed, I've kind of maybe tried to keep up with the stages that we're playing on, raise the level of musicians so that we could hold our own on those stages.
Yeah.
So, after a while, I was just like, let me just ask the best guitar player I know. And, I was shocked that he said yes, and it gives us an excuse to hang out and things like that. So, he's a good friend of mine. And
that's awesome.
I actually, this is kind of corny, but when he said yes, I knew it was going to take us to another level, and I kind of got emotional in my car when he told me that he would do it. I really expected him to say no, man. But I thought, before I go down the same road that I've been on, let me just ask the best I know. And
that's the funny it's kind of like how everybody asks, how'd you get Steve Albini to do episode 9? And I asked.
Yeah.
I asked. Steve Albini didn't know who I am, and he had no idea. Did you get to, I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, I watched, I got through about half of it.
Yeah, he's thoroughly interesting.
Yeah, he's one of those intellectual, creative guys that I find fascinating. They kind of a lot of them have the same look with the short hair and the intense eyes and the glasses, and they're like, they're kind of intimidating in a way, but they're.
That's why I wear the shades. I wear the shade because I get that focus and it's a little scary. So how many albums have you done with the Dharma Kings, and what's the latest one called?
The latest one's called Lords of the Dead.
And if I would have known, I would have had you bring me a copy, and I would have happily paid you
Oh,
for one.
yeah, I didn't bring one. I
But
don't even have my car.
I will absolutely send you home with this. This is a copy of the Jazz Destroyers Live.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead and check that out at your leisure.
Do you have Spotify or anything like that?
I do.
So all my stuff is on Spotify.
Spotify's cool. Spotify just pays the musicians so badly, though.
Yeah.
That's why I still buy physical CDs happily because of that. And yeah, I'll check it out on Spotify. And what we'll do is I'll ping you, we'll get a Spotify, we'll get the links. I'll make sure there's a link in the description directly to your Spotify, and I'll see if I can pull it up. But that's a lot of. So how many? So that's the latest, and then.
So let's see. I've had 2 with Dharma Kings. I had one with my previous band called Mud Doctors, and I did a solo record in about 2010.
Okay.
And we're going to go back in the studio with Dharma Kings in mid-February.
Very cool. Which studio are you working with?
I'm either going to do Rick Del Castillo's studio, which we worked with a little bit last time, which is called Smiling Castle. And
sure.
I don't know if you know Rick Del Castillo, but Del Castillo is a great band. Or I might go with my buddy Jimmy Quill, who's got Red Horse Studios down in Southeast, and Mark Younger Smith, the guy from Billy Idol. I might get him to engineer it. He actually worked on our last record some a little bit. So these are kind of like who I worked with previously that I really liked and enjoyed. I mean, we recorded all our stuff last time at Frenchie Smith's, and I really like Frenchie, and he really helped us. He actually helped produce the record, and I just I never really go back. I never really go back to the same place.
So when I was a full-time mastering engineer, that drove me nuts. That because people do that, they try new people constantly, and it's like, hey, I'm still here. I still do good work. But yeah, if you keep going back to the same place and you keep using the same players and the same producer, it's pretty hard to progress and find that next level of thing, right? So I get moving on and finding the new thing and checking out some other ideas.
It's kind of like lovers,
Yeah.
It's like you love your monogamous relationship. You love to be with the same woman, but there's something exciting and thrilling about another one. And I'm totally monogamous, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but
as am I.
The the vibe of the place and the person who takes you, mentally somewhere different can make music that's kind of similar sound a lot different. And Frenchie was great, and I think he really got a lot out of us, and he does a lot of great work and works with a lot of great bands. But I feel like we've kind of already been down that road one time, and I just want to
change it up. Yeah. And then what'll be great is, then you do that one, then maybe you go, oh, I'm totally going back to Frenchie. Who knows? The world is your oyster in that regard.
Yeah, hopefully we keep
How long
making them.
So you've made a few, so now, and you have other people produce them, which is.
I like working. Some people don't like working with a producer.
Right.
I do because I look at him more as a vibe master.
Right. That's, yeah.
If we're all having a good time and we're laughing and we're hitting some new realm, and it's fresh and that's the other thing. It's fresh and exciting for that producer because they haven't already,
They haven't played the song 100 times.
Yeah, and they haven't already worked with us once before. New friendships and fresh friendships are fun and exciting.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, Steve Albini is when you get on doing the next one, he's not terribly expensive for that level, but that's a totally, I think he's charging, what do you say, $1,500 a day or something up there?
Yeah, so our manager used to manage a band called The Wilds.
Okay.
And actually, their drummer is our drummer now.
Very cool. Who's your drummer?
Olive Perini.
Okay.
And the Wilds recorded their record in Chicago with Steve Albini. And it was a very good, solid record.
I bet it was a great experience too.
I think that they were excited. I think they were excited about it. but I think our record sounds just as good.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. That's that part of it.
And we don't pay $1,500 a day, and we don't
Yeah.
have to go to Chicago.
Yeah,
I can go home to my kids.
that's true. How many kids you got?
I have 2.
You have 2. I read this. So you have an older child.
I have a 13-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. And my wife and my 12-year-old daughter are actually in Latvia doing the final, the adoption's final, but they're getting the name change stuff done at the embassy so she can become last name Komie. And
God, that's a mountain of paperwork.
dude, it's been going on for 2.5 years, and it's expensive, and we're so ready for it to be totally done. So when she comes home Saturday, we're having a little celebration because it is totally done. And
That's awesome. So that will be the day before this episode comes out.
okay, cool.
So that'll be very cool. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It'll be a big weight off your shoulders. Except the fact that you'll have 2 teenagers in the house.
Yeah, except I've got 2 teenagers in the house, and
I've heard a story that your oldest is terribly embarrassed by you. Somebody was somewhere and asked your kid, like, is that the lawyer that rocks? And just eye roll and just
yeah. So
Dad's
neither
a
one of
celebrity.
them. I think they think I'm a pretty cool dad, but all this other stuff that goes on, it's like, you know, they're into pop music, and you know, I'm not that cool to them.
Well, but what'll happen? Oh, I'm a jerk. I should have put that on mute. Over time, they'll come back around. I've yet to meet a 13-year-old who really knows much about music, and they're very susceptible to marketing. In other countries, they actually don't let companies market to children under the age of 7. It's just verboten, right? So they're young, they're impressionable, and you've got this giant industry that's just designed specifically to make music for them, and get it into their ear. And we all went through it, you know. When I was in high school, because I'm in my 30s, so it would have been like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, that kind of stuff. And then you're
I'm classic rock from.
You're classic rock, but you would have been around probably the early 80s, right?
When
you were graduating high school?
I graduated high school in 1980.
1980.
So I was
So
in
the
high
Eagles.
school in the 70s, you know.
So it was a lot of Eagles and a lot of... I'm trying to think what the...
Yeah, but I mean, it was
disco.
also
You came out of the disco era.
Yeah, but I mean, the top of the Billboard charts, there was a lot of Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin,
And awesome. Yeah.
there was a lot of rock and roll. I mean, I thought what was lame would be like stuff like Journey or something like that. And now it's like it's so lame, when you have like Justin Bieber's got 3 songs in the top 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And my kids think that that's cool.
That, to them, it's the coolest thing ever because they have no frame of reference. All we can do is try to let them know about the other stuff that's going on or that has gone on. Like, I remember the first time I heard Pink Floyd, it was like, I'm going down that rabbit hole. I own every Pink Floyd record ever made.
Yeah. I did my in high school. I did my like first like downers, listening to some. I think it's either Dark Side of the Moon or Pink Floyd.
Or Animals.
We were one of those. And I was at a party, and I was just in this lazy boy, and I could not get out of it, and I did not want to get out of it, and I got lost in it, and
That's
the way to listen to Pink Floyd.
That is kind of the way to listen to Pink Floyd. Not that we condone illicit drug use, kids.
No, I mean, that was a long time ago.
Long time ago. So Pink Floyd, Zeppelin. Who else? I heard.
I mean,
I heard a little bit of like that late '90s, the hints of new metal and things come out in the music a little bit, but that might just be the fact that we all produce things in such a way now. So who else would you consider your influences?
My influences, I mean, as a kid, I was total Beatles freak,
Yeah.
I think everybody my age kind of.
Just about everybody my age, too.
I mean, well, obviously what they did was pretty fantastic. And then I got into, harder rock. I mean, when Aerosmith was new, when AC/DC was new, when AC/DC came out and they were new, I mean, that was so heavy. I'd never heard guitar that heavy.
Yeah.
Just
Angus Young taking his SG and just turning it up to 11.
And then it was, Alice Cooper Ted Nugent, Nazareth, Cheap Trick. I mean, all those were kind of, I like the harder edge rock bands at the time.
Sure.
And there wasn't really like this new metal thrash scene yet or anything.
No, that came like when I was in high school. That new metal stuff, I remember like the first time I heard Slipknot and Puddle of Mud, and some of that stuff was really awful, and some of it was really cool. Like,
we just played with Puddle of Mud.
Did you? Oh,
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I bet they're just the nicest guys.
They have a history of like that singer really screwing up. He's like a big drinker, I believe, and but he was good. I actually learned from him when we played. So they played actually before us. We played in between Puddle of Mud and Ace Frehley.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was kind of like a slot we probably didn't deserve. But so he played his microphone like a trombone.
Right, you pull it. That's the.
As he'd pull away, and he always he was his own mixer.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
I
we
cringed.
call that working the mic.
I've made people cringe, I'm sure, by getting right up in the mic and being.
You don't grab it by the ball by the grill anymore, do you?
No, I don't take it off a mic stand anymore.
Yeah, because if you grab a mic, you know how some guys will grab it right by the grill there on the SM58s? You're actually changing the sound because it screws everything. It actually makes it more feedback prone. So, pro tip.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, those are really good to study on how to work the mic, because when they start belting the mic, you'll see the microphone come about that far with it from their face.
Well, I've actually seen a better reaction, in our live show since I started doing that. And I practice it in practice, and when you're really belting it out, you back off a little bit, and then at the end of your line, you're trying to get some more texture. You come back up and you just play. You be your own mixer.
Right.
And since I'm not playing an instrument anymore with the band, it gives me something else to kind of keep myself occupied.
And now we got to get the mic off the stand in your hand and get you strutting around like Alice Cooper.
Well, I'm actually going the opposite direction. Nobody really wants to see like a middle-aged dude with dreadlocks, strutting around.
Though the dreadlocks are awesome. I think I read that's naturally occurring for you.
Oh yeah.
They just do that.
Yeah, man. My hair goes straight out.
And then do any of the so if you ever when you have to go in for court to litigate something, do the judges ever harass you for it, or
I don't go to court.
you send a litigator in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling you, my buddy, my father's old roommate started trial.com. That's a bunch of litigation attorneys.
Yeah.
I did mock trial in high school, and to this day, it's one of my proudest moments because I made the kid on the stand cry.
That's pretty tough to do.
I just like turned him around until he couldn't even remember what he was supposed to say, and just pointed it out, and we lost the case, but we also got individual marks, and I got high marks. I remember just going, I got to go work. I got to pay for my car. I can't keep doing this, but
yeah,
I probably wouldn't have enjoyed that because I took a couple law classes. Law school, I don't know how you did it without pulling your hair out.
I mean, it was nerve-wracking at times.
I bet. Where did you go?
I went to Mercer University in Macon, Georgia, which is how I ended up in Atlanta. I got recruited to a job there. Yeah, it was a great small school in a cute little town, and it was fun. And but it was kind of nerve-wracking. I mean, it's a lot of work, and
yeah,
it was a lot of pressure. I did ended up doing pretty well, but and I found it engrossing,
Sure.
It's a Socratic method, so there's a lot of questions being asked and the discussions, and I was engaged, and I really liked it. It was the first time I really applied myself in school.
Really?
Yeah.
Like you coasted your way into law school, and then you're like, all right, time to hunker down. That's when you're taking the most student loans, so that is the time to do it.
Yep. I had what now? My student loans when I was finished were about $60,000, which at the time seemed insurmountable, but people are doing that per year now.
Per year, and to get a bachelorate.
I mean,
because
yeah,
you'll go to Harvard and pay that. Actually, I think Harvard's $80,000 for a bachelorette.
there's a real question these days whether it's worth it,
Yeah.
whether higher education is really worth it.
Well, I hate the fact that they stick a price. I'm a Bernie guy, right? I think that like Texas State should be publicly funded, and anybody should be able to go to Texas State free of charge, as long as they can make it in, because then it would make Texas State one of the most competitive schools in Texas. And I'm all for, because I think that there's a lot of value in going to college, because college you can just tell in the world when you talk to people who went to college versus not. Everything about them is very different. That changes your whole outlook when you go down that rabbit hole of like, especially liberal arts degrees, when you study the human condition. It's an interesting, because somebody who didn't go, they've never taken that time to like do a bunch of reading of literature and take a couple art history courses and I don't know, to me, I just kind of found out that everybody's people are always the same. The technology changes, but people don't really change. And large groups of people are always kind of predictable in certain ways too.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
remember that, North Dakota.
Sociology was something that I was interested in, the study of large groups of people.
I imagine.
But it's something that you're saying is interesting to me because, we really are very much the same, with the same needs and wants and desires all coming from the same particle dust and all that kind of stuff. Yet we're here in the States, we're so divided.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
and George Washington was like, don't break into parties. Don't do it. Don't do the thing. We did the thing. Yeah, the politics of it all. I try not to get too political on this show. I've allowed a couple of moments of it, but honestly, like, I try to respect everybody's politics. And what happened to me and all of my friends was we all were on one side, and we were told, oh, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. There's no way he could win.
Right.
And then he won, and everybody was shocked.
Yeah.
And that caused me to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of reflection, and I figured out I let, especially social media, but the whole media, I let it manipulate my feelings and thoughts. I voted early. I went and I pulled the lever. I should have voted third party, and I didn't. And I let them manipulate me into not voting third party, and I will never, ever do that again. This election it'll just change everything.
So, without getting too political, I mean, I think that, the media is basically, you can find the media outlet that you want to listen to or watch that'll tell you what you want to hear.
And that'll be it.
And if you go there long enough and then, chat with people of the same thing, you feel like that, you kind of feel like that's the only world view or spiritual view or any view that there is. And then when it doesn't go your direction, you can be very fearful. And, I blame the media for all the fear that there is right now.
I do too.
Because if you're telling people so that your side will win, if you're telling people that the other side is, Hitler's and Charles Manson's love child.
Yeah.
But then that guy wins, everybody's freaking out, But,
And it may be true.
So this guy won.
Yeah, he won.
You're still having your podcast.
I'm still having my podcast.
You're still in your comfortable chair.
It is a comfortable chair. I'm sorry I don't have a more comfortable chair.
I'm cool. It's like I learned that before because I got emotionally invested, I guess, when George W. Bush won. Yeah. And I was like, oh, my God.
You're talking about the first time?
The first time. I think when he beat Gore, when it finally came out that he beat Gore, because, I was like, I felt.
And then you're going, Nader. But it wasn't Nader.
Well, but I woke up, though, the next day, and it was gorgeous outside, and there was no barbarians beating down my door, and I just went, I ate at my favorite restaurant, and everything was kind of the same.
Yeah, except we went off to a couple of foreign wars. Like, that's the chat. But then under the current administration, we've bombed 17 different countries, so nothing changes. Just love one another. That's what I always say.
Yeah, there's no bombs dropping, on Austin, Texas, and nobody's beating down the doors to take your things. And so we're actually pretty lucky whether it's got this face or that face at the top. I mean, none of them get anything done really anyway.
Yeah, exactly. especially with the way, because it's so divided, Congress is so divided, it just deadlocks.
And I'll go
Which is
back.
probably best case scenario.
I mean, there's not everything that people that think differently than you and your friends, everything that those people think is bad or wrong. And I think there's some people that on both sides that think what they think is actually right, but I don't think they have all the information, and there really might be a better way. And
there's so much information.
There's so much information
that it's actually impossible to process all of the information.
And there's so much information we don't have.
Yeah, that's true. It's that old Donald Rumsfeld thing, right? We have our known knowns, our known unknowns, and our unknown unknowns. And the thing that'll always get you is the unknown unknown, where you don't even know that you don't know it. Yeah, that's...
I mean, we're not in Aleppo, or there's plenty of food. There's food or we're not in Venezuela. There's food in the grocery stores. I mean,
there are.
It's really kind of, most of it is semantics.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Though I'm sure the comments will light up, but well, I'm
not even taking a side. I'm just...
Yeah, I think at this point, if you're unhappy with the status quo, it should be clear to everybody at this point, voting is not simply enough. Like, let's not pretend that voting is actual participation. Actual participation is go run for office if you're really upset about how things are. Because that's the only way, because you can't, if it's the same two rich people that are always running against each other and always winning, and nothing ever changes, then what's going to lead you to believe that something's going to change when this new rich person if you're gonna complain about it, you should get involved at least on a larger level than just voting. But
I think you make change by being the leader of your household and being a great friend and being a good brother or family, relative, and service to others and
a community leader. Absolutely.
You don't need. This is my opinion. You don't need to solve all the problems of the world. You solve the problems that are in front of you in a way that has a lot of integrity.
That's a good point. Though I should point out you might be the first lawyer to ever talk about integrity. I like that.
Yeah.
Though I don't
hang out with any lawyers, just so you know.
I have some friends that are lawyers, right? My buddy I told you about, he practices trademark law and immigration law, and then I knew another girl who was also a personal injury attorney. I find it. How do you fall into personal injury though? Because that seems like the one where, well, because you don't hang out with other attorneys, so that you don't feel the stigma from that.
So I was in law school and we all competed for grades and to make law review and that kind of thing, and so you do that so that you get recruited to make a lot of money or something like that. So I got a job with a firm that was defending insurance companies, and I loved the guy who was the top guy in this pretty large firm, and he took me under his wing. My office was right next to his. I was his kid, and I learned it, and then I saw that as I got better at it, I started sending these huge checks to the other side, and I was like, and they were actually helping people. I was reporting back to insurance company adjusters or whatever. And
where you lose one and you're gone.
And well, fortunately, I didn't lose any, but if you won one, they'd be like a monkey could have won that thing. But I knew people that had lost and they got chewed out, and you always had to worry that they would pull the cases from you or your firm. And we would do social things with them, and I just was like, we were I was not connecting with these people whatsoever. I was actually closer with my opposing counsel that were plaintiffs' lawyers. I actually hung out with them and would, hang out with them a little bit, and they were more like me.
With them more. Yeah.
I did, and then I sent them some really large checks, and I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when did you get started? So that you did that for 7 years. So did you start in Georgia doing personal injury, or did you come to Austin?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Austin, it seems like a good place for personal because there's so many drunk drivers.
Yeah, it's good. Traffic is terrible.
Traffic is really terrible.
Workers or bosses are having shortcuts. It's just a dense population. There's a lot of things going on.
Dense population, a lot of competition for resources.
Yeah, and my field's very competitive, but I have managed to. I'm kind of. I have my own little niche.
That's right.
You're
the attorney that rocks. I bet every musician every musician that gets in a car wreck calls you.
I get a lot of musicians. I get artists. I get women, minority men. My demographic is very, like I said, very regular person, salt of the earth that maybe doesn't trust the guy with the suit and tie all buttoned up with the same hairdo as everybody else, talking. And when you speak with them, you know that they're just basically figuring out how much money they're going to make off your case. And
yeah,
I just.
And do you do it you do it on a percentage of the payout?
Yeah, it's called contingency fee.
Contingency fee,
which is great. You don't have to keep a time card,
right?
And
you don't have to start talking about how much. So, like, if I call an entertainment lawyer and I start saying I could use some consultation, they go, "Well, I charge $500 an hour," and I go, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to risk it." So that.
Yeah, I'll figure out this contract by myself.
I did. It's 5 pages. If you want to take a look at it, I would not presume to ask you to spend any time doing legal stuff on my behalf. We just, and the way I look at it is, even if I lift myself a great big old hole and it comes back and bites me, I'm so well intentioned that at least I can win the court of public opinion. Where maybe I screwed something up with the contract and I didn't quite, and monetarily it'll hurt. But I'm just a guy trying to do it as well as I can.
At this point, you're fine. I mean,
when
it starts becoming real money at stake, then I don't even think you need $500 an hour, but $300 an hour. Pay somebody. When there's real money at stake, then it seems like instead of $300, it feels like $30.
That's true.
Then you need it at this point.
That's true. Yeah, when it comes back to that catch-22 with bands. Like we talk about this a lot on the project on the podcast. Like, so Dharma Kings, you guys gig, you guys sell tickets, you sell albums, and that helps fund the next project. I'm sure not nearly as much as you'd like, but
yeah, I mean, we just got a royalty check for $12.
Hey, you're doing better than me. I haven't gotten a royalty check.
I get about the same amount every quarter, So I don't. I fund a lot of things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I fund a lot of things. And
you're in a unique position.
I'm in a unique position, and if I'm going to put the time in, I got to figure out, if it's one of my advantages to get a leg up. It's also a very competitive field. There's so many bands around here, and a lot of them are great.
A lot of them are great.
And there's a very limited number of venues, and there's so much music out there. I mean, seriously, I feel like I could put out a record. Not that I'm capable of, but I theoretically put out a record that had 10 number one hits on it.
Sure.
And I might not be able to get 500 people to listen to it.
I know the feeling.
So it doesn't matter. It's like if a tree falls in the woods, can you still hear it?
Right. Well, our whole thing is there's a couple of different ways to approach it, right? You're kind of going for the large festival thing, the very large venues and such. And that's a good way of doing it. It's a tried and true way. But the pitfall with that is you wind up with all the leeches. They come out of the woodwork to latch onto you. What we're trying to do is we're just trying to collectivize all of our smaller audiences together, and then all of a sudden, instead of having 100 fans, we all have 1,200 fans, and it's that old 1,000 true fan theory that we're trying to go after.
We're doing that a little bit more now. Now that we have a real manager.
Yeah, and if you need help with stuff, I mean, obviously you're a friend of the show, you're a friend of the label. I do YouTube stuff. I can help you get that going. I will tell you this: the reason we do this podcast is because YouTube is weekly. If you're not consistently uploading weekly, YouTube will actually not show your videos to as many people, and so then you have to spend a lot of money advertising and such. But you'll find the channels that have weekly, daily, twice weekly, a consistent upload schedule, they are the ones that have that growing fan base all the time. And yeah, when I've got 100 and I'm growing at 10 a week, it kind of sucks, but I am growing 10% a week. So if I can keep that growth going, maybe, hopefully, so go subscribe and thumbs up. But that's,
perseverance. The people that I know that have been successful are the ones that keep going when 98 out of 100 people would have quit.
Right. And we'll see how it goes. This is relatively new for me. I did major label stuff. I've worked in the industry to an extent, but I just, like you found you weren't happy with the way working corporate law was. I found I wasn't happy trying to chase after major label gigs.
Yeah, and well, that part of the industry is not what it used to be.
Oh yeah, and so it's all kind of consolidating. I think I predicted on the last show. Eventually, the entire industry will collapse into a single company that will own the major venues. It will own all the contracts to all the major name artists, and it'll own the back catalog to all of the anything you can ever think of. Because eventually, record sales will consolidate down to where only one company can do it.
That should be an addendum to 1984.
Yeah. Well, and what'll happen is that everybody will realize, oh, it's one company spoon feeding me this. This is no good. And then here's Get Off My Lawn Records, like the little mammal, right as the dinosaurs went extinct. That's why when I asked Steve Albini, I'm like, I'm the maniac who started a record label. He's like, it's not a bad idea. Because being small right now is almost advantageous. It keeps us nimble.
And the main thing is to do what you love. That's what I tell my kids.
Yeah.
I have 2 rules for them. Be a good person. Do what you love.
That's a pretty good outlook.
Yeah, it pretty much covers just about everything.
Just about everything. Be a good person. Do what you love.
Yeah, I've made some decisions in my life along the way that was more after the pursuit of material things.
Yeah.
And I find myself,
it's just stuff.
Yeah, and I find myself 20 years older than I should be doing some of the things I'm doing.
That's what I love about you, though, that you're sticking to the story, and it's seriously admirable. Because a lot of I work with, because guys my age, we start sprouting gray hair, and those of us who aspire to be rock stars, we start going, well, I guess my time's up. I guess I should go take this job, and then they have to go live this life of not feeling like they ever achieved anything, right? I never amounted to nothing. I could have been a contender, that kind of thing. But you have persevered through it. It's absolutely admirable.
I've done a lot of different things. One time I stopped being a lawyer for 3 years to be a tennis coach at my alma mater. I played tennis.
What's your rating? You still play?
No, I've got a kind of a bad shoulder.
Oh.
But,
the reason I'm asking,
I was on a tennis scholarship for college and played some pro
so you would have been
tournaments.
like 5'5", maybe even a 6.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
But they didn't even have ratings back then.
The USTA rating wasn't around
No,
then?
I mean, when I first started playing tennis tournaments, I played with wood rackets.
Oh, man.
We wore mostly all white. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want, I remember when pastel colors came out, it was like kind of crazy. Light blue and light yellow. Now it's so loud, and I mean, it's a beautiful thing, but
I love tennis. Tennis is so my number one sport is obviously hockey. I love basketball too, but I played a lot of tennis. I used to go to my father, I grew up in that part of the country, so we used to go to the US Open every year.
I mean, that's a great event.
Oh, it's so cool.
Such a good vibe. Did you ever see like Jimmy Connors or?
That was before me. I was there right as the Williams sisters were getting big. Anna Kournikova, that was quite the sight. Martina Hingis, that kind of generation of players.
Got it.
Andre Agassi, I got to see Andre Agassi's last year.
Pete Sampras.
Oh yeah, Pete Sampras was so funny because his tongue was too big for his mouth.
Yeah.
The tongue out of his mouth, and you're sitting there like, he's goofy looking, but damn, he could really smack the crud out of that ball. And I wasn't. My sister took it a lot more seriously than I did. She went to camp, and I'm sure I'm terribly out of shape now, but in both of our primes, she could totally wipe the floor with me. But I remember back then being about 19, and I could hold my own with people that had much more skill, but only because I had the reflexes of a cat. And they're sitting there like, yeah, you can't teach somebody to be 19.
No, the youth is a beautiful thing.
Oh, so it's wasted on the young.
Yeah.
That's all right. But yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any other thoughts? Anything you want to? I mean, obviously, if somebody gets injured, they should call you.
Of course they should.
But
Actually, for anything legal, most people call me for anything legal because
you turn into their guy.
Well, I know who to get them to that's honest, that passes muster with me. Somebody that I would send a family member of mine to.
That makes sense.
So I'm usually the point person for almost a lot of people's legal situations.
That's very cool.
Which I don't mind. It's cool.
That's very cool. And where is your office?
I'm north at Lamar and 183.
Yeah. That's I work right over there. We'll have to go get lunch one of these days.
Yeah. You ever been to Kim Fung?
I like Kim Fung.
We can walk there from my office.
Though the place I really like over in that neighborhood is Ramen Tatsuya.
I haven't been there. We'll have to go there.
Yeah, we'll have to go there. That place that's why it's a Japanese noodle house.
Let's check it out.
It's really legit.
Got it.
Yeah. So thanks for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out to Manor and chat with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the fact that you had the desire to interview me. I know. I figure at some point that's going to stop. So I want to make sure I take all the opportunities, and it gives an opportunity for me. Like 25 years from now, we have a timestamp of our conversation. That's
true. One day your kids will be like 30, and hopefully they come back and they find this video on the some archived thing, and they're like, holy cow, that's my dad in his prime.
Yeah, and hopefully they don't know what downers are.
It sounds like you're raising them right. I think
trying.
I think they'll know what they are, but I think they won't have partaked.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what you want. You want kids that know what they are, but then choose not to do them. Yeah, that's a tough one. Man, keep in touch. Let me know when you got the next record coming out. We'll certainly give a shout out here on the podcast, even though we're not putting it out unless you want us to put it out. But we're kind of small.
Well, like Dharma Kings on Facebook.
Absolutely, I already did.
Okay, cool.
I think I did. I'll double check.
All right, brother.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool.
Get off my lawn! So that was a lot of fun. I want to send a big thank you again to David. He drove all the way out. It was actually quite a drive. I had no idea he was driving that far. So if you we'll make sure there's a link in the description to his law practice and to his band.
Yes.
I think I promised I'd put a couple cards to a card to his YouTube, the videos. If I haven't, I'll do that right here. And yeah, so if you're still watching, thank you for watching. This is a lot of fun. We like making these.